We begin tonight with a day of chaos and death in the county of Kiambu. At least 4 people, including a police officer, were today killed in a confrontation over a piece of land in Royo. The groups were fighting over a piece of land in Twiga Farm that is claimed by squatters. And as Wickles Tanyabwa now reports, the land in contention is said to have been sold to the controversial Mboi Committee Company.
Passers-by on their way past Twiga Farm were confronted by a roadblock manned by a group of youth. No non-resident was allowed past this point. Behind the barrier, a group of residents sat, silently backing the youth. This group had camped here since Wednesday evening when the news filtered in that police officers would arrive to evict residents of Twiga Farm.
Walikuwa nasema ati wanalete koti order, lakini hawakusema hivi, ni nyumaye walisema.
And it came to pass that on Thursday morning, just after 6, a group of police officers accompanied by youth from neighboring areas arrived to eject residents of Twiga Farm. A battle ensued. The smoking embers tell the tale of the 4 people who died. 3 residents were shot dead and 1 police officer succumbed to his injuries. At least 6 others sustained injuries. Over 1,000 acres of land, that is what is at stake for the over 4,000 people who have settled here on Twiga Farm. And this is the reason why they barricade themselves, hoping that in this way they can hold on to this disputed plot of land. After persuasion, the residents allow us past the barrier, leading us to the plot of land they stood guard over. Twiga Farm sits on just over 1,000 acres of land, whose value is estimated at 2.5 billion shillings. The residents show us Twiga Primary School, built in 1984, and old houses they claim were built during the colonial period. This piece of land, they say, was given to them by a white settler who was leaving the country.
Wazazi wetu wote wamezaliwa hapa, uka wetu wote wako hapa. Sisi hata sisi tushazaana, tuko na watoto, tumeishi hapa kama masquatters.
Trouble is reported to have begun when the land allegedly came into the late Njenga Karume's hands. He is in turn believed to have passed it on to Mboi Committee, the land buying firm. This leading to a tussle that has dragged on in court for years.
Tunangojea kesi ni tarehe 3 mwezi wa Januari.
The area MP now weighing in on the matter.
May we get a confirmation from the minister that this afternoon they will not cause death to public by way of shooting, Mr. Speaker, because I am told there is a contingent of over 1,000 policemen entering Twiga this afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
Almost 12 hours after the morning raid, the residents of Twiga Farm involved in yet another tussle. In a bid to maintain their hold on a piece of land they say is slowly slipping through their fingers. Wilkes Anyabwa, KTN Prime.
And from Royo in Kiambu County, we go to Nairobi's Korogosho slums. Police have launched a manhunt for a couple after 5 of their children were found murdered in their house. Neighbors discovered the bizarre killings this morning, were looking out for the children after they failed to come out to play. KTN's Angel Katusia now reports that 4 of the children may have been poisoned, while the 5th one was stabbed to death.
Members of the public each jostling for space to have a peek at the scene of the bizarre killings, giving the police a hard time to conserve the scene of crime. Inside the tent structure lay 5 lifeless bodies of children aged between 2 and 10 years. Police haven't been able to establish who committed the murder, only suspecting the parents of being behind the incident. It is a crime that was unearthed by neighbors who were concerned over the unusual silence in the victim's house.
Kugonga tukaona kuna mtu anaamuka, huyo mama akaingia, nikamwambia ingie, tukaomba torch. Kwenda kuchukua hivi blanketi huko ndani, juu amefunikwa na blanketi na shuka, yule mama alikuwa amejifunika jana. Kuchukua hivi blanketi ndio waliona watoto wamekufa, wengine wanatoa pofu, wengine wamedungwa.
According to neighbors, the last time they spotted the 2 parents was Wednesday around 7 p.m. Neighbors did not hear any cries or commotions from the house. According to neighbors, the couple have been quarreling since they moved to Korogosho from Huruma. The wife had run away, leaving the man with the children. She returned on Wednesday only for the children to be found dead Thursday morning.
Mama yake ameenda karibu wiki mbili hivi. Wiki mbili mama yake hakukuwa, alikuja jana saa 1 kasorobo hivi. Ndio alikuja akapigia bwana yake simu, wakakutana pale nje, wakaingia kama wameshikana kwa nyumba.
According to police, the bodies of the 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls, lay on the parents' bed. Only one body, that of the youngest child, had stabs on the stomach. Police discovered a bottle of poison in the house and suspected the parents may have poisoned the 4 others.
We are yet to establish the motive behind the incident and the circumstances surrounding the incident.
Police have not been able to trace the couple. No friends or relatives have come forward as the couple had just moved to Korogosho. The bodies of the children were taken to the mortuary, leaving behind a shaken community still searching for answers. Angel Katusha, KTN Prime.
And we have some good news for a change. Tonight, David Kimayo is one step away from becoming Kenya's first ever Inspector General of Police. Members of Parliament have in the last 3 hours unanimously approved Kimayo's appointment to that top post. And as KTN's Patrick Amimo now reports, only a formal appointment by the President now stands between Kimayo and the brand new job.
A day after the House Committee on National Security vetted David Kimayo on his suitability for the position of Inspector General of Police, the chairman of the committee Thursday evening set the ball rolling when he moved a motion seeking Parliament to approve Kimayo for the top police job.
He's an officer that deserves the job, and we feel as a committee that this House approves him.
And when lawmakers stood to make their contributions, they unanimously supported Kimayo's candidature.
I believe with Kimayo's leadership, the police can embrace reforms.
He is a career policeman who is honest, he is tough, but he's also amiable and is humane.
His CV is extremely impressive, and given that he's gone through a very rigorous process, I believe that he's a suitable candidate.
Lawmakers noted Kimayo entry comes at a time when the country is facing serious security challenges and a police force that is strained of resources. MPs challenged the executive to fully support police reforms.
Insecurity in Kenya is now a threat to our nationhood, and it must be tackled as a national priority. But, Mr. Speaker, as a student of management, we are always taught that you cannot assign a task to a worker without providing them the necessary tools.
The problem with the police force has never really been the man at the top office at Vigilant House, Mr. Speaker. The problem has been the political government, Mr. Speaker, and especially, Mr. Speaker, an animal called Treasury and Ministry of Finance, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Kimayo, we look upon him to ensure the kind of thing that was going around called the Kwekwe, eliminating young men, should never happen in this country.
Is now risen to a position, Mr. Speaker, that will demand that the manner in which General Tonje professionalized the army during his tenure, Mr. Kimayo too will continue to professionalize the police force.
But there were also light moments during the debate.
Committee members have looked at this, they have approved. So who are we to refuse their recommendations?
I thought you had the good minister say, who are we to refuse? Is he implying that this is a rubber stamp parliament? We are legislators.
After the Speaker of the National Assembly notifies the President of the approval, the President will have 7 days to gazette appointment of Kimayo as the new police chief. The leader of government business later moved an adjournment motion where lawmakers agreed to proceed on Christmas and New Year vacation before resuming sessions on January 2nd next year. Patrick Amimo, KTN Prime.
Let's go to the coast now for our next story, and it's been a major blow for the separatist group MRC. The High Court has dismissed a case filed by the group seeking a referendum on secession. The court ruled that MRC has no legal basis to file such a motion. The group had also wanted to bar the IEBC from conducting elections in that region. And our senior Coast reporter Ferdinand Omondi found out the group may have contributed to its own downfall.
Supporters of the Mombasa Republican Council thronged the High Court grounds by the hundreds, prompting the security personnel at the courts to lock most of them out of the chambers.
Tubakini hapa, tusikilize uamuzi wa koti, tutakuja kuwapa taarifa.
Inside the packed courtroom, 3 of the 5 judges appointed to determine the legality of MRC's application to have a referendum for secession of the coast region were ready to deliver their verdict 2 days after deferring the same on account of a power blackout.
Having taken all the circumstances of this case,
and the early signs of disappointment came when Justice Richard Mwongo declared that the impression that an earlier court had legalized MRC by lifting a ban on its proscription was misconstrued.
Nowhere in its judgment did the court legalize the MRC. Indeed, the court there pointed out that MRC should legalize itself and suggested the option of registering as a political party.
In a ruling that lasted nearly 2 hours, the technicality that was ultimately upheld by the court was MRC's decision not to register, which effectively cost them their entitlement to constitutional protection.
And having evinced its intention to be a registered body, but having failed to do so, it has no locus or competency to bring this application for constitutional protection.
And the final nail on MRC's coffin was their sustained secessionist calls, to which the government had labeled them as a dangerous organization. The respondents said that hearing and entertaining their complaints would be tantamount to offering legitimacy to an illegal and unlawful society.
We hold that neither the applicants as individuals acting on behalf of MRC, nor the MRC as an unregistered amorphous body espousing an unconstitutional agenda has either the locus standi or the legal competency to bring the originating motion or the interlocutory motion, or to be entitled to pursue the reliefs sought.
It was a subdued walk out of the chambers by MRC leaders, who were then faced with the arduous task of explaining the ruling to their supporters and ensuring they walked home without engaging the riot police, who were on red alert.
Subra yenu izidi maradufu ya hapo. Tusiweze kufanya fujo, tusiweze kuwamaki, tusiweze kufanya lolote.
And with that, the dejected Lord trudged off, albeit with pockets of defiance, as police trailed them for a few hundred meters just to make sure. The Mombasa Republican Council's decision not to register as a legal entity has ultimately cost them this case, but going by their last statements, it appears it is not yet over. They will be considering appeal. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
Now to the nurses' strike that continues to deepen. The government has in the last few hours arrested officials of the unregistered Kenya National Union of Nurses for unexplained reasons. The arrest comes shortly after Medical Services Minister Professor Anyang' Nyong'o softened his stance and indicated that they would look into the registration of the new union. But as Ann Soimwendia reports, many of the public hospitals across the country are now grinding to a halt.
Nairobi, Central and Eastern regions converged at Uhuru Park Thursday morning, incensed by comments made by their line minister, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, in Parliament on Wednesday.
I'm sorry that I was really enraged the previous day, quite honestly, because the damage that I saw was not warranted.
The apology came shortly after the nurses held demonstrations through Nairobi streets to Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa's office, seeking his intervention. Here, the nurses were informed that the Justice Minister was not in office. They then made their way to the Supreme Court to seek the audience of the Chief Justice. In the meantime, hospitals in different parts of the country were deserted following the nurses' strike, which is now in its 3rd week. At the Coast General Hospital, patients were discharged from the ward as the casualty and emergency sections remained closed.
Kuzidi tuazidi tu na kuumia Hata ikifika mambo ya madai kwa hakuna mtu anaweza kumsaidia na madai, mtafanya nini?
What really irked me is that I have no problem with demonstrations, really. But in all my life, when I was demonstrating, we never hurt a fly.
Incensed by the utterances of the Medical Services Minister, these nurses have vowed that they will continue with this strike, albeit illegal, until such a time that someone in government hears them and registers their union.
I wish they could be registered, by the way.
Nyong'o had issued a warning last week that he would replace striking nurses by Tuesday this week, but that did not happen. The minister, however, warns that he may still resort to sacking nurses. Meanwhile, officials of the Unregistered Nurses Union and the Nurses Association were arrested Thursday evening. The minister and the Labour Board had asked police to take action against them for calling a strike through an unregistered entity. Ansu Mwendia, KTN Prime.
And it is an unhealthy standoff indeed between the nurses and the government. And it's from that story that we bring you our big question tonight. We are asking you, do you think the government should register the nurses union? Now send your brief comments right away. The line is open, beginning with a yes or no to our SMS number 8040. We'll be sampling your comments at the end of this live newscast. In politics, the Jubilee coalition has now cancelled a joint rally it had planned for Nyeri tomorrow. The coalition, however, says it will go ahead with its national delegates conference scheduled for Sunday. Sam Ogina now has the highlights of the increasingly animated and confusing political scene.
The controversy-dogged Jubilee Alliance has cancelled a joint rally planned for Friday in Nyeri's Dedan Kimathi Stadium. The unity rally was to be attended by Deputy Prime Minister Musalia Mudavadi after skipping the Kitui joint rally last weekend. Antagonism between Mudavadi and Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta continue to run deep in the fragile political marriage. Differences intensified, with sources saying the Nyeri Unity Rally, organized by UDF, did not lay proper groundwork to the extent of sidelining local leaders. Equally, sources in the TNA and URP say, despite the statement informing of the rally bearing names of URP, TNA and UDF party chairmen, URP and TNA chairmen were not in the picture. TNA sources claim UDF had hyped the rally, claiming Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta will cede his presidency to honor the deal with Mudavadi at the rally.
Nawezekanaje kufanya harusi bila madelegati? Heri niwe peke yangu.
Meanwhile, reports indicate UDF may be marshalling its grassroots supporters to endorse Mudavadi as its presidential candidate, signaling a possible severing of ties from the Jubilee coalition. The Nyeri rally, with another one at Tononoka Stadium on Saturday, was supposed to precede the much contested presidential nomination exercise set for Sunday. The primaries were to be held at Kasarani Gymnasium. Mudavadi is adamant his endorsement must be honored. But on the flip side, after two aborted national delegates meeting, Jubilee says it will move forward with or without Mudavadi. In the CORD, coalition partners are preparing for Saturday's rally at Uhuru Park. The coalition has agreed on the presidential candidate and his running mate, and the lineup will be unveiled at the rally. Coalition parties, according to Kangundo MP Johnson Muthama, who toured Uhuru Park ahead of Saturday's rally, will not field candidates individually.
Tumekubali kukataa misingi ya kikabila. Tumekataa mambo ya vyama ndoko hapa na pale. Tumeamua kwa mara ya kwanza tutaunganisha taifa hili.
Partners in the coalition led by Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka are in Naivasha for a retreat to agree on the final details. Meanwhile, Eagle Alliance, comprising of Kenya National Congress Peter Kenneth and Party of Action leader Raphael Tuju, is working on building alliance with Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa of Pambazuka Alliance to form the third force. The leaders say consultations are on high gear on a move that will tilt scales from the two-horse race parable.
We believe that this country should not be boxed into a choice of only two horses or a two-horse race.
But we are here today to tell Kenyans that we believe God is going to provide another option a better option to this country. You know, even when Jesus walked and he used a donkey and he still made it, and we believe in him up to today.
But the move has driven a wedge in the Pambazuko alliance, with Eugene's partner in the coalition, Lugari MP Cyrus Jirongo, denouncing the Pambazuko Eagle alliance talks. Samogina, KTN Prime.
Now, UDF says the planned Friday Nyeri rally is still on despite the cancellation by Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta. UDF party leader Musalia Mudavadi is expected to address the rally. Now, in about 2 days' time, the political scene is bound to be defined more clearly than it has been for the last few months. On Saturday, the Coalition for Reform and Democracy, CORD, will be holding a rally at which it is expected to name its lineup for the March 4th elections. The Jubilee Coalition is also expected to give a clearer indication of its political direction. Now, over the last few days, we have seen claims and counterclaims of betrayal among top politicians as the race hots up. While we concede that politicians have a right to agree and disagree as they please, we recognize that such seeds of suspicion can often spill over to the supporters and create unnecessary tension in this country. You recall the now infamous MOU of 2002, whose bitter aftertaste was blamed for the tribal hatred that may have contributed, at least in part, to the troubles of 2007-2008. Our appeal, therefore, this evening is for the politicians everywhere across the board to ensure that the deals they enter into are about the people and not their own selfish ambitions. In any case, few Kenyans are ever told about the contents of these agreements beforehand, and so why should they be used to divide the citizens? No one in this country is prepared for yet another season of suspicion and tribal animosity. That's the notebook for this week. It's now official. 14.3 million Kenyans have registered to take part in the forthcoming general elections, according to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The figures, however, will have to be reviewed further before the final register is finalized. On the counties' ratings, Nairobi tops the list with a 121.6% turnout, while Mandera registered the least at just 25.3%. The commission says the 14.3 million figure might come down as those found to have presented fake documents or registered twice will be expunged, or shall I say removed, from the final list. IEBC had set a target of registering 18 million Kenyans to participate in the March 2013 voting exercise, but had to revise the figure downwards in the third week of the exercise. And as KTN Prime continues, we have just received some sad breaking news. 3 people have been shot dead by unknown assailants in Garissa town this evening. 2 were killed when the assailants shot at a crowd of people watching television at a local restaurant, while the 3rd was shot dead as he was walking in the streets of Garissa town. Now, such attacks, as you know, have become commonplace in Garissa, with security agents also not being spared in the spate of insecurity. Now, Alexander Kenywa, an American of Kenyan descent who was accused of killing and eating his fellow student, has apologized for the brutal act. Kenywa, who allegedly ate the heart and brain of family friend in Hanford County, USA, has now been committed to a psychiatric facility after he pleaded guilty to the charge. However, in her ruling, Judge Gail Racine said the 22-year-old was not criminally responsible for his actions, adding that he was suffering from paranoia that caused him to create a delusional universe. A month before the act of cannibalism, Kenywa claims that he thought reptilian-like aliens were planning to invade Earth. It's not clear how long Kenywa will be committed at an asylum. And now to that promised conversation with CNN News anchor Zain Verjee. Some of you may recall that I did indeed co-anchor news with Zain over a decade ago right here at KTN, and we have fond memories of our time together. Now, Zain has been visiting the country this holiday season. She is also writing a book, she tells me, and I caught up with her for a candid conversation about her time right here at KTN and the trials and triumphs at KTN.
And supporting this view with me, Zain Verjee, is the Honourable Maoka Maore. But
what I learned at KTN is to be more self-reliant, to be able to handle things that go wrong better, and to learn from that, because then I was very self-reliant. I don't need 50 people to do things.
For how long did we read this together?
Not long enough, Joe.
1 year, 2 years?
About a year.
That was when? Remind me, because it's much later.
1998, 1999. Yeah.
Now, what are some of the fond memories of those years at KTN? Do you have any?
Yeah, the auto cue dying. And the way that you taught me to read from when the auto cue's not working to just to pick it up on the script. Yes. And then sometimes when we were reading stories that were about to air, but the stories weren't ready. Yes. And we'd hear someone running down the corridor to put the tape inside, and then it would be there. It's Monday, the 13th of April. I'm Zain Verjee.
Now, but all that experience, do you think it helped your work at CNN?
I do, yes.
Yes.
Because at CNN, you have such a wide range of people to do so many things. So there's a big support crew. Yes. Whereas with KTN, it wasn't as big, obviously.
Now, did you have to handle any career prejudices at CNN? In other words, was there any culture shock that affected you in any way?
I don't think I had a cultural shock, because I had lived in Canada for 5 years before, so I knew what to expect, but I think it was hard. I mean, I had no family. Very hard. I was crying so many times.
Why were you
Because
crying?
I got shouted at so many times at work. I was writing. I wasn't hired. They didn't put me anchoring first. So they taught me how to write and produce, and I wasn't very good at writing. So the boss at the time, who was in charge of the writers, the copy editor, would say, "This is awful. This is awful. Who wrote this?" And then I didn't have any friends, and I didn't know how to drive, and it was very hard. It was lonely.
Rowing has been in every single competition since Paris, since the 1900s.
Now, what are some of the highlights then of your broadcasting in CNN? Because you globe-trotted.
I have.
At one time you were in London. What are some of the highlights you could tell the viewers in your broadcasting at CNN? Just a brief summary.
Covering the elections here last in 1997.
97.
Sorry, not 97, 2007. 2007. And so that was a big news story for CNN, and because it was home, it was a big highlight for me to be able to cover in my own country.
I've been in Kenya now, here at home, for about 3 weeks now, and I, like most Kenyans, have been really shocked to see what's happening to our country.
Do you think the coverage of Africa by the Western media, especially the American media, is improved, is better than it was before? What's your view about it?
I think that there's still the perception of Africa stories as they want more doom and gloom sometimes.
Why is this?
Because Africa doesn't always make it on international and American news, and when it does, it's usually when there's dramatic pictures or something bad has happened. I think the US media is interested, but I think they could be more interested in some of the amazing things that are happening on the continent.
That's right.
And not just do doom and gloom.
Okay.
Well, a very warm welcome to this edition of Prime Business Today. My name is Betty Callo. Now, the High Court has issued interim orders stopping the migration to digital television in Nairobi, which had been scheduled for December 31st this year. High Court Judge Isaac Lenaola directed the switch-off to be put on hold until January 11th, when the ruling on the case filed by a consumer lobby, COFEC, will be delivered.
The Consumer Federation of Kenya, COFEC, had moved to court on December 10th, seeking to block the government from switching Nairobi from analog television transmission to digital transmission. However, the High Court has issued interim orders stopping the migration in Nairobi, which had been scheduled for December 31st. The Federation based its application on lack of consumer awareness. Communication Commission of Kenya, CCK, argued in its response to the application that there are about estimated 200,000 to 300,000 television set holders in Nairobi, and most had access to multiple sources of information. The communication further argued that Kenyans had been given ample time, and the set-top boxes had also been subsidized. In a sworn statement filed in court, the Minister for Information, Samuel Pogisio, said the East African community had set 2012 as the target year for the completion of digital migration in the spirit of integration. The case will be heard and determined in January 11, 2013. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
Let's now move on to a developing story. The High Court denied an injunction restraining listed mobile service provider Safaricom from using M-Shwari products allegedly developed by deposit-taking microfinance Faulu Kenya. Faulu had gone to court contesting cash and savings products dubbed M-Shwari, recently launched by Safaricom in collaboration with the Commercial Bank of Africa. Justice Jonathan Havelock ruled that Faulu Kenya had not demonstrated how it would suffer if the injunction was not issued. In the same ruling, Justice Havelock denied Safaricom its bid to transfer the hearing of the case from the High Court to the Industrial Property Court, citing that the High Court had unlimited jurisdiction on the matter. The matter will be heard in January the 21st, 2013. Moving on, Cabinet today held its last meeting before the Christmas break, in which a number of significant bills were passed. The meeting, chaired by President Mwai Kibaki, focused on devolution in readiness for county governing units. Among the key issues were the passing of the supplementary budget, which recommended an additional 60.2 billion shillings for recurrent expenditure, with the key beneficiaries being payment of health workers, lecturers and police officers, and 13 billion shillings for development expenditure. While also the Division of Revenue Bill 2012 will see the central government receive up to 80% or approximately 769 billion shillings of revenue collections from the county governments. Further, the bill also sets the equalization fund to marginal counties at 4.3 billion shillings. Finally, Cabinet also approved a proposal to have an institution of higher learning in every county. Before we leave, let's have the financial markets.
Referees Samuel Kipngetich Langat, Elias Wamalwa Kuloba and David Sagero have been suspended indefinitely by Football Kenya Federation. The trio have been adversely mentioned in a match-fixing scandal during the lead-up to the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, a saga that has already claimed the head of South African Football Federation, Christian Nematendana.
Center referees Samuel Kipngetich Lagat and assistants Elias Wamala Kuloba and David Sagero were chosen to officiate during a friendly match between South Africa and Colombia at the Soccer City on May 27, 2010. The referees in question were appointed by the then Football Kenya Limited. However, due to the ongoing investigations by the World Football Governing Body FIFA on the match-fixing scandal, FKF has indefinitely suspended the three referees. The scandal has claimed South African Football Association President Christian Nematendana, who was among 5 officials mentioned by a Singapore-based bookmaker, Wilson Drudge. The officials are said to have allowed Drudge to choose match officials who then influenced the outcome of games by awarding dubious penalties and offside decisions. South Africa got 2 goals from suspect penalty awards in a match they won 2-1 against Colombia. South Africa defeated Guatemala 5-0 in another match. FKF, which met on Thursday morning, said it will take action against all former and present officials found to have been involved in the shameful act. FKF has appointed a committee to look into the matter. The acting Vice Chairman Robert Asembo is in that committee alongside Eli Mukolwe, Richard Omwela and Isaac Mwangi Kamande. Nicholas Mudimba, KTN Sports Today.
Meanwhile, former Harambee Stars coach Tom Olaba may be the man to watch next season in the Kenya Premier League. The veteran tactician has been appointed AFC Leopards assistant coach, replacing Mickey Weche, who was fired alongside head coach Jan Kops.
With the Christmas mood hanging like a nimbus cloud, Kenyan Premier League clubs are also positioning themselves for the 2013 season by beefing up their squads and technical benches. AFC Leopards, which disbanded its entire bench, opted for a speedy replacement. The club named former Harambee Stars coach Tom Olaba as its assistant. John Busolo was enlisted as the goalkeeper trainer, while Nicholas Muyoti is the new team manager. Olaba has accepted his new role.
My first target is to look into the team unit itself. Secondly, I have to look at my technical bench. And then lastly, I have also to look at the supporters of AFC Leopards.
I'm a goalkeeper wangu watakuwa in good shape na wataconcede less goals, even kama ikiwezekana wataweza cut by half.
Olaba, who is also a former coach of Tanzania League side Mtibwa Sugar, was officially unveiled to the team on Wednesday afternoon in Nairobi. Olaba said he is eager to use his close to 35 years of coaching experience to change the club's fortunes.
There's some few players who are currently with the AFC Leopards whom I have coached. Busolo is one of them, but he's not playing. Muyoti, Mike Baraza has been my player. The team I have told you, under 20. That is Okwemba.
Olaba has been following the Kenyan Premier League on television from Tanzania, where he has been for many years.
The challenge is only that I've been away. Now I've come back, and there's a new crop of players. It's a new kind of environment. But it all depends with my technical bench.
The last season, we really learnt a lot. And I believe this is where we can build the next season from our past mistakes.
AFC Leopards finished the 2012 season in position 3 with 57 points. Victor Ogale, KTN Sports.